He's heating up!
Welcome, welcome. If you are tuning in, Brand Story Breakdown. This is where we are going to take a look at a, right now, user-submitted brand story video. We're going to take a first look. We're going to dive into it. We're going to do an analysis, see what absolutely crushed it, where there's opportunities to make even more of an impact. One of the things that we talk about a lot here are video business cards. It's something that I have spent a ton of time doing in my business. And so we're going to take a look at a video that's maybe not necessarily a video business card, but it's going to share a lot of that structure. And we're going to see how can we use those structures and those frameworks to make sure that we're making as kick-ass of a video as possible. So if you don't know Chris Burk, longtime member of various video communities on Facebook here, he kicks ass. He does awesome work. So I'm stoked to dive into his video. He said some quick context before we actually watch, because what we're going to do is watch the video, give it a full run through, and then we're going to give a first impression. You know, what was the impression that this left? Because brand story videos and video business cards are meant to say, here's the first impression of our business. Then we're going to go through and kind of mark, hey, what went really well? Where could we improve things? So to give context on this video, Chris says, this was for a client, and I'm pretty sure with the results, pretty happy with the results. Always love learning what I could do better. The goal of this video is to give an overall look into the parenting center and for families in need of their services, as well as potential partners and volunteers. So we're going to jump over here. Make sure you guys can see this all right. This is the video that Chris created. I wanted to give this a first fresh look. So I've got it queued up here. We're going to play. I'm going to mute myself. We're going to sit through. And what I want you guys to do that are watching, whether you're live or whether you're on the replay, is to give your thoughts. If there's moments that stand out, let us know in the comments. I want to hear your ideas, thoughts, and feedback too, so that we can kind of go through this together. But here we go. Let's cue it up.
It doesn't matter how many initials you have after your name or how many degrees you have. When your toddler is throwing a tantrum in the floor, you're still just a parent that's pulling their hair out.
At one point or another, we all need help. Sometimes it is relationship issues with a partner. Sometimes they have lost a loved one. Sometimes we have people that have big goals, right? They're working on buying a home for their family, and they don't even know where to start because their credit needs help.
We are all born with what we need to get to where we want to be. It's just throughout life, sometimes we're told or we think that we can't do it. And ultimately, when you think about it, that's really when problems start happening, when we start doubting ourselves and we start losing that faith in ourselves or in our partner or in our family.
There's no guidebook on how to deal with these kinds of issues. And so having the parenting center here and available for anybody who's just struggling or just needs a little bit of help.
We always say that we are just part of your village. We are just here to support everybody who is a part of the village. And I think the Parenting Center does a really great job of being able to add in those just significant and really positive attributes that any family and any household could use.
The need for the Parenting Center it's kind of multifaceted, whether you are new parents, old parents, grandparents.
We have programs for teenagers, programs for kids, counseling with children's, teens, couples counseling. It just really gives an overview of the family to be able to address all the different parts of the family.
We're much bigger than the building that we sit in. And so really for me, that's the legacy, is that we don't have a barrier or walls or anything that would keep people from participating.
We believe that families want the best for themselves and for their children. And we believe that we have the ability to give them tools to be able to achieve that. There's lots of families that are already healthy in many ways, and we believe that we can make them healthier.
At the end of the day, really just parenting is hard. Relationships are hard, and your doctor tells you one thing, your grandmother tells you another thing, but having some place that has an education behind it that can give you some support and actually walk through it with you is helpful and important.
If you are interested in our programs and services, the best thing you can do is sign up for one of our lunch and learns. That's when you come in and you get to see our building. You get to talk to program directors. You get to talk to the CEO. You get to see our programs come to life. That's where you'll learn all the details on volunteering, on interning, on shadowing, on in-kind donations that we might need, on how to sponsor a special event or how to participate in a special event. That's really the best entryway to our agency.
All right. All right. If you are just tuning in, welcome, welcome. This is the brand story breakdown of Chris Burk's client, the Parenting Center. We just watched through. So we have this over here. We just gave the inaugural watch. So if you're here live, let me know what you think. I want to hear your first impressions. Overall, goes without saying, Chris, great work. Visually awesome. It's very clear to me. I want to go through and say like the things that I really loved, and then we can kind of dive into maybe where there are opportunities for a stronger impact. So my initial thoughts, looks great. These people are so clearly comfortable. They are very clearly comfortable and passionate about what they do. That's very clear. They believe what they do, and that really comes through. So awesome work. The tone, the feeling of this, very comfortable. The music in the background, very soft. It makes it feel supportive. The feeling that I get watching this is a safe place to go where I can get support. Now, my thoughts on where there might be opportunities for improvement are not even there yet. Just the first impression is that I'm a little split on the focus. So that was very informative. I agree. Great work, my man. Hell yeah. I think what was maybe in the back of my mind or, middle of my mind the whole time is, from my perspective, it's clear that we're splitting focus on the target demographic. Because I know in the context that you said over here, goal of the video is to give an overall look into the Parenting Center and for families in need of their services, as well as potential partners and volunteers. Now, my initial thought is that if this video or the interviews that you got were to be split into two separate videos, one the parent facing and one partner facing, I think what you got out of these people would be so impactful. It would be so amplified. And I want to go through real quick and just kind of say some specific points of where I feel they might split either way, and how I'd maybe structure it to like even amplify that impact. And again, if you are completely unfamiliar with brand story videos or the video business card or the framework, I have over here, this little screen here. This is a resource I've made for my own video business cards. It's it's just really the video business card structure, but I've added these additional pathways that are just the common natural storytelling progressions that people follow when they kind of talk about why I got into this, what we do, how we do it. So if you're completely unfamiliar with the video business card framework, it goes like this. Who are you? Why do you do what you do? What specifically do you do? How do you do it in a way that is unique in your market compared to anybody else? Followed by a call to action. And the reason that this works so well is we start off with logic. We move into an emotional appeal. We go back into logic very quickly. We move back into an emotional appeal and wrap up with logic. So I just want to kind of preface that as we go through here. And I want to jump back to the beginning because I wouldn't say that this is a video business card. This is more of a wide, broad brushstroke brand story video to establish the brand here and what they're all about. But there's definitely a lot of common ground, some similarities, some things I think we can draw from that will make this resonate strongly with the target audience. Because regardless of what you're doing, brand story video should make that perfect first impression so that whoever is learning about the business, the person, whatever it might be, the company, the brand for the first time, they get a very solid understanding and the right people are attracted to it. So we're going to go back to the beginning And I would, and we're just going to kind of start and stop here a little bit to say some thoughts on what we're going through here. And again, the goal is if you're watching this, get some takeaways for your own brand story videos. If you're Chris watching this right now, get some just maybe fresh perspective on it. And let's rip it and go through.
It doesn't matter how many initials you have after your name or how many degrees you have. When your toddler is throwing a tantrum in the floor, you're still just a parent that's pulling their hair out.
I love that opening because two things. One, it's funny. She's very clearly like, that's just how it is. But it also roots in a pain point a little bit. So as a hook, I think that works great because it establishes kind of the underlying thing there, right? Look, it doesn't matter how well educated you are, how trained you are, how many books you've read. At the end of the day, when your kid is on the ground screaming, you're just a parent and you're frustrated. And it's kind of reminds me of that like Mike Tyson quote, like everybody has a plan until they've been punched in the face, right? So it's like, hey, look, we get it. We understand there's some opportunity to resonate here that's being laid out.
At one point or another, we all need help. Sometimes it is relationship issues with a partner. Sometimes they have lost a loved one. Sometimes we have people that have big goals, right? They're working on buying a home for their family and they don't even know where to start because their credit needs help.
So this part kind of, after that intro, after that opening, sort of felt like a quick right turn or a quick left turn for me, because we start off with, hey, being a parent can be hard, right? We get it. Doesn't matter how well educated you are or whatever it is, like it's difficult. And then we have her talking about some like very specific examples. And so when I first watched this, my immediate thought was, is it a daycare facility? Because we kind of have in that opening shot, like the little playground. But then as we kept going through, I kept thinking more and more, it's a resource center for parents to build their families. And so this kind of threw me off a little bit where she's talking about like, hey, sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes you're in a bad relationship. Sometimes you want to get a house. And I think the B-roll right here kind of like was a little bit of a dissonance for me, where I didn't know if this was their facility that was being built out a little more, or if this was meant to represent like a home that somebody's trying to build. But let's keep going, because there's some ideas that I have that I think could kind of shift around here.
Because their credit needs help.
We are all born with what we need to get to where we want to be. It's just throughout life, sometimes we're told or we think that we can't do it. And ultimately, when you think about it, that's really when problems start happening, when we start doubting ourselves and we start losing that faith in ourselves or in our partner or in our family.
There's no like,
I like that point. Again, he's kind of saying like we have what we need, but the problem happens when we start doubting ourselves. We're again rooting in a pain point there. So we spend a lot of the beginning kind of like trying to say, we understand how hard it can be. We understand the problems you might be facing. And I think, well, we'll get to my thought on that in a second. Well, let's keep going.
like guidebook on like how to deal with these kinds of issues. And so having the parenting center here and available for anybody who's just struggling or just needs a little bit of help.
We always say that we are just part of your village. We are just here to support everybody who is a part of the village. And I think the parenting center does a really great job of being able to add in those just significant and really positive attributes that
I like that we're showing here.
Could use.
So I like their bit here because, and I like that we have so many different perspectives. I think that contributes a cool way of showing all the different things that we do, or that they do rather. I really like that they mentioned that we got some of the photos here to kind of make it a little more concrete of like, they have programs, they bring people in, they're workshopping. I also love the play on the thing of like, it takes a village to raise a kid. And so like we are part of your village here. Really like that. What I'm thinking is, because now how I would consider this to mirror sort of a VBC structure is we're in the why. We're in the why section in all of this. We're kind of rooting in pain, relating on problems. And so the next part here after the why would be moving into the actual what. Full transparency. This isn't necessarily the most up to date of how I structure what's nowadays, but this next part that we're moving into is kind of like, hey, here's what we actually do. So let's take a look at that.
Positive attributes that any family in any household could use.
The need for the parenting center it's kind of multifaceted.
So my initial thought or my initial like struggle here, maybe this is just me with a skill issue, is the text on screen being different than what was being said, like similar but different, threw me off. So I was trying to read, and then when I was trying to read, I stopped listening as much. And then when I read and came back to listening, I was lost on where we were. So I think with here, either having text actually be what's being said to emphasize it, or not having the text here and then having just more B-roll to showcase what they actually do would align it better. But again, that could just be on me. And maybe if it makes people rewatch and rewind, that could be better for watch time and retention. But let's keep going through here.
Whether you are new parents, old parents, grandparents.
We have programs for teenagers, programs for kids, counseling with children's, teens, couples counseling. It just really gives an overview of the family to be able to address all the different parts of the family.
So we're talking about like, here's what we do, here's what we offer. I would like to see it maybe a little more specific, talking about specific programs or what that interaction looks like, because I understand kind of the result they're trying to bring about, or like the role they're trying to play. And again, I think this is where a split focus of a video catered toward the parents and families they're trying to help, and then a separate video catered for the partners and investors and volunteers that they're trying to get on board with them would benefit. Because if this were specifically focused on the parents, I think there's a bigger opportunity to say, this is how we can help you. This is what we actually do a little more explicitly. Because it's a wide variety of services, right? They're helping parents become better for the next generation. They're helping teenagers learn, life skills. They're helping couples work through problems together. It's a lot of stuff. I think even further as a content strategy here, separate videos for each of these different sections of what they do could make even stronger of an impact. Now, again, I'm not sure of the scope of what was agreed with them or what their budget was or anything like that. Good chance that they maybe had the budget for one video, and so they wanted to get most bang for the buck. But all of that aside, if in a perfect world, I think creating separate offshoot videos for all these different things would benefit them hugely. So we kind of move out of the what section here into the CEO, where I think the point he makes is pretty cool. He talks about legacy. Let's listen real quick.
All the different parts of the family.
We're much bigger than the building that we sit in. And so really for me, that's the legacy, is that we don't have a barrier or walls or anything that would keep people from participating.
So two things. I like that we have like the social media clips here to kind of show what they do, what it kind of looks like, give some context. This guy's awesome. Chris is his name, president and CEO. I probably would have bumped him a little sooner. I would have maybe crunched a little bit of the beginning before the what stuff and like all the pain points, maybe bumped out this talking point here, and then started off with these two and then brought in Chris, because he makes this awesome point of like legacy. We're doing this because we're larger than the walls here and we want to make this impact. So the way that I break this down, we got some comments from Chris, loving all the feedback, did actually create videos for each program. Hell yes. Beautiful. Love it. The way that I would fit this, or if I had to restructure this, so to speak, into a video business card, I would say that this definitely follows the mission, because I have these classic pathways that we follow, right? Origin story. It's what a lot of us kind of default to. We think, I was a parent And I recognized that like there wasn't really a whole lot of support out there, and what was available really wasn't that great. So I figured I could do it better, and that's why I started this. Classic, just origin story. Continued motivation is like, why do you wake up every day and keep choosing to do this? Why? What is it about this job or this business that you love that keeps you moving along? And then the mission is obviously what I got from this is like, we want to empower parents to do an even better job to raise the next generation to be even better parents. Like we want to do better for our kids is kind of the theme here. Now, if you have never dove into video business cards or any of this, or this is all new to you, the way that I break this down, these pathways, the structure here, is you start off with a statement or a claim. You explain why that is important to the person who's watching this. So your customer, they're in a consideration phase, right? They're watching your video business card or your brand story video. They've ended up there because they're probably doing research. Maybe they're problem aware. Maybe they're just figuring out what options there are for what they have or what their issue is. So when they're talking about, here's a little bit about us, you need to make it tie into them. So you explain, here's why this is important to you watching this here. Kevin says, dope breakdown. It is hard to read the text in the slides on my end. Don't even worry about reading the text. Most of it's not that important. Anything that's actually there is more so audio being explained. So we want to make sure that we understand why this is important to the person that is watching. Then we want to make it like a promise or a commitment. And we actually have a good example of that in the next interview here.
The legacy is that we don't have a barrier or walls or anything that would keep people from participating.
So the way that I see that is that would work right in here, this middle part. And to read this off to you, the mission pathway goes, what is their core belief or value? What is the reason that is their core belief or value? How is that relevant to their ideal clients? And then what is their actionable outcome or goal? So I see it a little bit here where he ends. And what does he say here again?
That's the legacy, is that we don't have a barrier or walls or anything that would keep people from participating.
So it's kind of ties into the why. It's also a little bit of the how, actually. But he says, we don't have these walls or barriers that hold people back from being part of this. What's up, Peter? How you doing, man? So that directly ties in to the person watching. That's like, we are making this as accessible as possible for you. The actionable outcome or goal, I believe that's right in the next part here. Let's play it.
We believe that families want the best for themselves and for their children. And we believe that we have the ability to give them tools to be able to achieve that. There's lots of families that are already healthy in many ways, and we believe that we can make them healthier.
So that's awesome. I think this point that she made is like, it's a great modular soundbite. And what I consider to be a modular soundbite is, in an interview, it's a phrase or just a piece of the interview, a talking point that could be dropped anywhere in the actual project or the edit itself, and it works. It just enhances wherever it is. And it's a double-edged sword because it's so useful to have, but it's also like, where's the best spot to drop this? And I think this would actually work almost better dropped somewhere else. Again, I mentioned there might be some restructuring that could work to amplify the impact. But let's end with Chris here and then come back into her point again.
That we don't have a barrier or walls or anything that would keep people from participating.
So we don't have a barrier.
We believe that
basically we want people to be accessible as possible to this.
Families want the best for themselves and for their children. And we
believe that. So it's this statement or claim.
Believe that we have the ability to give them tools to be.
And we believe that we have the ability to give them tools.
Be able to achieve that. There's lots of families that are already healthy in many ways, and we believe that we can make them healthier.
I love that. That is such a great sound bite there, because she's saying too, she's not disqualifying anybody. She's saying this isn't just for people who feel like they're troubled. Like if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, like we're okay. Well, guess what? We can even help healthy families be even healthier. So that's a great statement mission piece right there. I would probably bump this way sooner in the actual edit, somewhere in this first half, because if you root in the pain first and you have, for example, that first bit of like, doesn't matter how well educated you are, how much you learn, like when your kid's screaming on the floor, you're still a parent that's frustrated trying to figure out what to do. Then talking about like, oh, what did they say? We're going to bring this back really quickly.
There's no like guidebook on like how to deal with these kinds of issues. And so having the parenting center here and available for anybody who's just struggling or just needs a little bit of help.
We always say that we are just part of your village.
So actually what I would do, okay, here we go. We're like rearranging in real time here. I would start off with that statement from her. And if you didn't catch it yet, she said basically like, doesn't matter how many letters you have next to your name. Like when your kid is screaming on the ground, you're just a parent and you're frustrated pulling your hair out. I would start with that. And then I'd go over to the, we believe that, where is it?
Already healthy and we believe for themselves that
Come on.
we believe that families want the best for themselves and for their children. And we believe.
So I'd maybe like pull that. There's probably another soundbite that could transition better. I'd use that about we believe that we can help families and give them the tools that they need. And then I'd go back over here.
There's no like guidebook on like how to deal with these kinds of issues. And so having the parenting center here.
Yeah. I would tie those talking points together because I think that lends itself nicely to the say, there's no guidebook, right? Well, we believe that we can give them the tools, blah, 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 blah. So I think that works great as a mission why all the way through, especially since this is like a broader brand story piece to say, here's like what we're all about, how we operate. I think that mission works fantastic there. So let's jump back over here.
We can make them healthier.
At the end of the day, really just parenting is hard. Relationships are hard. And your doctor tells you one thing, your grandmother tells you another thing, but having some place that has an education behind it that can give you some support and actually walk through it with you is helpful. And
that's her soundbite is actually awesome. I would so use that in the beginning because that's such a relatable, specific thing. It's so conversational. It's what did she say here?
Relationships are hard and your doctor tells you one thing.
Your doctor tells you one thing, your grandma tells you another thing. It's like the conflicting. I think that's such a relatable pain point for people. It's the conflicting advice where as a parent, especially all you want to do is do the right thing. That's the real pain point here is like, I want to do the right thing for my family. And so having all these different voices, it's like, how am I supposed to know which one's the right one to follow? She nailed that. And then she says like, we're here to help.
Thing, your grandmother tells you another thing, but having some place that has an education behind it that can give you some support and actually walk through it with you is helpful and important.
Dude, perfect soundbite there. I want to applaud you, Chris, in your interview skills for this, for getting this out of them because they nailed it. I would bump that forward more, and I'd probably have that be the part that transitions into the what statement, the what section. So that would be like coming out of here and then moving down into the what would be a smooth transition right there. Like you need someone who's got the tools and the resources to be able to help you. Then immediately talk about what those tools and resources are. Oh my God, awesome. So the thing that we didn't really get in here, we'll jump in and back in a second. But the thing that we didn't really get, which is okay, is a how section. I don't think we got a very clear how section. So if I were to, reformat this and we did, split it facing parents and then also facing sponsors or partners, I would make the parent facing one. I would have a how section on like, how do we do this? How do we actually make this happen? How do we stand out from the other people that maybe do something similar to this? What is their unique advantage? Do we have specified like staff? Are we just the only ones in the area that do something like this? I would want to talk a little bit about that. But again, that not being here is not the end of the world. I think it would amplify it, but it's okay. And to give context, because again, if this is hard to read, the how section here, there's 3 standard pathways that people generally gravitate toward. So there's the unique process, which is kind of the OG, just like, hey, here's how we do things in our own unique way, right? Cool. Then we have shattering a false belief. You can consider this to be kind of like myth busting, or like picking something that people have as a common misconception or stereotype about the business or industry and saying, it's actually not that way, specifically for us. Here's how it actually is. And then use that as an opportunity to explain and educate someone on how the business does things. Posing the norm, kind of similar, but it's basically polarizing. It's saying, look, all the other businesses in the area, we use this for an example, maybe, all the other businesses in the area that help families, they're just daycare centers. Like, sometimes you need more support than that outside of that, which is what we recognize. So that's why we have, trained mediators on staff, or we have trained like counselors on staff, blah, 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 whatever it might be. Just an opportunity to oppose the norm. And it's great. That's a great pathway to go, because it says, it's kind of like throwing rocks at other people in the industry a little bit without calling people out specifically and saying, look, we get it. That's what everybody else does. We're not everybody else. So those are just the kind of the how pathways, but let's jump into what I believe is the call to action here now.
If you are interested.
So if there's one thing that I got beef with here, I think it might be the call to action. and I say that lightly, but the call to action first and second half kind of threw me off for a little bit. So let's take a look here.
If you are interested in our programs and services, the best thing you can do is sign up for one of our lunch and learns. That's when you come in and you get to see our building. You get to talk to program directors. You get to talk to the CEO. You get to see our programs come to life. That's where you'll learn all the details.
I love that. The first half, man, awesome. Come out, get involved, be part of it. Just show up and see it. Meet everybody. We're an open book here. Have a great time. Feels like if I'm a parent watching this and I'm interested, I'm like, dude, absolutely. There's like, this is such a low stakes, low pressure thing. Then we switch in and it's very like sponsor partner facing.
Also volunteering, on interning, on shadowing, on in-kind donations that we might need, on how to sponsor a special event or how to participate in a special event. That's really the best entryway to our agency.
So that is where I kind of got thrown off, because again, obviously we've got 2 target audiences here that we're trying to kind of like straddle, but that I think works great. Fantastic if we're doing a video specifically aimed toward partners. But since we're kind of talking about parents and partners here, if I'm a parent and then I hear that, I'm like, oh, well, what if I don't want to, like, what if what I need or what I want to do is different? Can I still come out and like be there? Can I still like show up and meet everybody, or is there a different process? So just like a little bit of a discrepancy or like a dissonance there, I think, on what is the actual result or call to action somebody can take. And then I think, yeah, we go into the end card there. But dude, again, I want to state, because we're going to bring Chris on in just a second here. I can get the link over to Chris. Chris, should be same link that I sent you before. Should work. So I want to just say, Chris did an awesome job interviewing everybody. They're very clearly comfortable and passionate about what they do. There's a lot of people in this video. I think maybe like 6, maybe 7 or even 8 different people that are on camera talking. And they misalert, hey, Michael, what's up, man? Nah, you're here. We're partying. We're talking. And I love that I get these balloons and like little thumbs up things, even when I'm got all these different live stream stuff going on. So yeah, I'd say awesome job. The only thing that I would really tweak to maybe make it more impactful is just some restructuring. But we're going to bring Chris in now. I'm going to add him, and then I'm going to answer Peter's question. Is there any risk in using the opposing the norm claim, like being called out, hey, you aren't unique? I've seen XYZ company doing it. Nah, dude, don't overthink it. I mean, obviously you want it to be something truly unique, but people usually aren't going to call it out. And if they do, that's engagement, and that helps visibility. All right, we're bringing in Chris, the man of the hour right here. We got We got him. Look at him. Look at that face, everybody. Woo.
What's up?
What's up, dude? How you doing?
Good. It's a little delayed. I was watching you on Facebook, and then when I jump in, I expected you to still be talking to Peter. That's funny.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to, I got the screen over here. I got this. I'm like, where am I right now? So welcome on, dude. I want to say first and foremost, like, awesome job. Thank you for submitting, being the first one to step up into the pit here for a brand story breakdown. This is, I want to know more of this story. If you're watching, if you're just tuning in now, we just did a full like breakdown, first impressions analysis of a client video that Chris did. We're bringing Chris on now to get the story behind it, a little bit more context about how it went, and possibly reasons why some of the stuff that I said would not make sense whatsoever. So, Chris, give me a little bit of the backstory here on the Parenting Center project.
Okay, so first let me say thank you for taking time to do this. It's extremely helpful. I was stoked when I saw you post about it, and it's like I know you're doing a lot of different things, so this takes time out of your day, and it's super helpful because I kind of learned from Nick and some of the the originators of the VBC, and this is kind of a bastardization of that sometimes. And it's like, I don't know if I can say that on Facebook. Sorry if that's a bad word. Is it? Okay. So
fuck it, dude.
I even at times, I think you kind of get to where, I don't know, like it's interesting to hear your feedback is what I'll say, and thinking like, I know what my intentions were going into it. And probably there's like maybe a few things sometimes, like when you're listening to other critiques that could be just different, like it's subjective, right? But 100%, like there's so much that you said that are like, oh yeah, that's a good point, because you get so close to it. And so anyways, I have made notes on like some of the feedback specifically. I'm going to tell you about the Parenting Center. I also want to say that when you posted it, like I'm so not self-conscious, but you can be hard on yourself with your work sometimes. So when you're like, what video do I submit? It was like hard and even picking one. I was just like, you know what? I'd love to hear what you'd say about this. So I'm pleased. Okay. So Parenting Center, they reached out, they're a nonprofit, and they do have a lot of programs. Honestly, that was probably one of the most difficult parts because they have so many different things that they want to include. And we did do a video for each program. So each person I interviewed, that's why we had all those interviews. And this video was meant to go, they had a big event in October where they were in front of a bunch of donors, which is exactly, I probably should have gave you that fee or that. So I apologize. It is on their website, which is why I told you it could be for both parents. That is true. But overall, that video was created to show in front of a bunch of, people with money to be like, hey, we're looking for help. Right. So
yeah.
Now the struggle was also, it's 3 minutes long, which to me is too long usually for a brand story. And you have a marketing team that I'm working with. So the text on screen, 100% agree with you there. That was added by the marketing team. It was one of those things to kind of like make the CEO happy. It's like, I really feel like we need to include more information, but we don't want to make it longer. So it was like, now I didn't think, again, I got to say that you're not able to read the text. Well, again, this is something because I've edited 100 times. I know what he's saying. So it's really helpful to hear that feedback so I can say in the future and kind of push back maybe and be like, it's going to be hard to kind of focus on both, but yeah. And this is no way, by the way, making any excuses. It's just like when, if you've ever worked with a marketing team before, that you can present something that, you're like, this is it. This is like perfect. We nailed it. And they're like, yeah, we love it. But we need to add this part in. We need to make sure this team gets in there. And I 100% agree with you on being split focus. And thankfully we do have the individual videos for each one of the programs where it goes into it. And so anyways, I can pause there. But like I said, I made some notes based on your feedback. It's all basically just saying you're right. Totally. But,
dude, I'm glad that you gave that context too, because like that, it's not an excuse, man. Like it's not an excuse to say like, oh, the marketing team wanted this. I mean, look, I think anybody that is watching this or has done videos with an organization understands very much so that like if you have multiple cooks or chefs in the kitchen, man, it gets hot really quick. And there's been projects that I've done where like I'm so stoked about how it turns out, but then people have their input And eventually you kind of reach a point where it's like, I need this project to end. Like, I want this project to end. Fine, we'll do that. And so I get it, man. No, nothing held against you there. I think it's kind of like the director's cut, right? Like there's been videos where I've had to like make some tweaks for the client. And then it's nothing major, but like on my website, I'll feature the slightly different version that I know would probably do better. I'm like, this is my director's cut, you know? Hey, Hollywood directors can do it. Why not? So I feel you, man. No sweat on that. But I want to throw it back to you because you said you took some notes, you had some thoughts, ideas. What do you got, man?
Yeah, you know, realizing as I kind of said some of them already, so sorry to oversell it, but the thing is, overall, I do appreciate the most thing you said. I'm so happy you liked the hook because there were a couple of sound bites. Erica is one of the marketing people, and she was so good. Of course, she's one of those people too that immediately when she got back, she goes, "Oh my God, I wish I would have done something better with the way that I was sitting." You know, people are about themselves, but I was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, we're not cutting anything you guys said because there's so many great things. I couldn't even use them all." But that made me happy, right? Because I love the hook too. Other than that, though, the only thing I didn't say to you, because I mentioned the text and all that kind of stuff. Oh, the B-roll. Great point there. And then the how. That was something that I do think I remember it being kind of like we were trying to create something that was like, we want you to reach out, like we want you to learn more. But that said, though, you're right. It would have been, it could have been very easily, and you said it perfectly, to just kind of touch on something of like the way we do this is through programs, or they're free programs that, you know, we offer the community. Just something really quick to touch on how we get you there or how we help you. That was, and we have that. I could probably totally go edit that and add that in. So overall, what I've learned from it is I always feel like I've always been a very good interviewer. And there's something like, that's kind of why I do this for a living, because I realized very early, before I knew even how to expose cameras properly or had, you know, just anything else that I could do, that if I had a strong, you know, cinematographer with me and we had a strong editor, that like we would be a superstar team. Because being able to get people to talk to me, like even before video production, dude, I remember hanging out with people that would tell me things, personal things and stuff that I'm like, what do I possess that gets me that people just want to like share, right? So that's why I'm here. I know that, and I love doing it, thank God, because, you know, otherwise like it would suck to waste a skill. So that was all to say, I really appreciate the feedback on that, because it is something that I consider to be one of my strengths. And everything that you've mentioned, I think is all a product of just, I'm kind of like not really into the editing part when it comes to video production a lot of the times. So yeah, it all shows through what you said. And it's because I'm either rushing through it or just like, let me just get it done good enough. And like, so yeah, that's cool, because it gives me an excuse to hire an editor. It does. It definitely does. That's to be said. If anyone's watching this and thinking like, I also hate editing and I love interviewing people, just budget accordingly. But I will say, as someone who also typically loathes editing, like, dude, even I just recently edited VBC for actually my cousin. It was a really cool opportunity to be able to work with her on that. But dude, I was editing it and I'm like, man, I hate editing. It ended up being like one of the best VBCs I've done in a while, but just that process of getting there was frustrating. And I realized this is something that is, I think, a useful takeaway for anybody watching this, is that I've realized in the pre-production, I didn't go as heavy with it as I normally do, because when I actually utilize like the workbook, when I'm filling this out, like typically how I'll use this is when I'm going through, I'll just straight up like use this for my deep dive. Granted, I've expanded upon this. This is a little bit of an outdated version right here, but like I will literally just, these are all sample prompts and questions, and I'll just walk through and ask them questions and literally fill out like every single part. Like, what is the favorite aspect of the business? Like, oh, they love helping parents. And I'll just like, with my chicken scratch here, I'll write all that stuff down and I'll just revisit it after the fact. Or I'll, you know, nowadays you can transcribe deep dives and things like that automatically and find what are the key points and all that with AI. But like, I'll use this as my framework. So that way I know that when I'm getting into the interview, and then when I'm getting into organizing footage, and then I'm getting into the edit and everything like that,
I know like, okay, this is probably going to be the narrative that I'm going to follow here based on what I learned. I just need to make sure that I get the best sound bites for that. And then I'm gonna know that everything else, because dude, we leave so much on the cutting room floor, right? That everything else is going to be awesome additional videos or video, content or even video assets that can be used. So that's just as like a quick little thing from my own experience that I've realized is like the more work we put up front, who would have thought, the less work it is on the back end.
Yeah, can I totally jump in and say like that's something that actually I need to work on, or it's kind of becoming more imperative that I realize I got really good in the beginning about being run and gun. I did a lot of, you do everything in the beginning, do weddings, whatever. And like, I'm really good at it. I'm really good at capturing stuff. That said, it does take a lot of work. And I think that's why I'm realizing I don't like piecing it together in the edit sometimes. These interviews are no different. I just interviewed everybody and just went real deep with them. So I had so much to choose from and stuff that we could create content for days for these people. So even the structure that you mentioned, I don't have that concrete of it. I just kind of remember in my head that I like to try and start with the problem or what I would call the why. Sometimes it's not always a problem. Sometimes it's the desire, but it's like, How can I come right out the gate with like, this is the reason why, like really the way I look at it is I want somebody who's watching it to be like, oh yeah, I'm literally going through that right now. I don't have a guide, Becca. I'm trying to figure out how to do this right so that we can come in and say like, that's what we do here, right? We help with that. And the only thing that I think that I took away, and I'm interested to learn and see more breakdowns too, because again, this is going back to what I remember from Nick and Marcus and stuff. And it's like qualifying people. I don't know, like I tried to do that, but there were some elements in there like, look, it doesn't matter if you're a parent or if you're a grandparent or whatever. And so that's all I'm thinking about in the edit. And I say all that to say that it's shoot a bunch of stuff. I know that generally I kind of want to put some talking points on why here. I want to kind of put this here and then call to action. And then, hopefully that we can make that all work together. And 100% coming back after all this, it really just solidifies that, like, I'm thankful that it's good that, the client's super happy with it and all that kind of stuff. But like, how long are we going to be able to continue to make it if we're just like, great, it's almost like we're just taking a bunch of ingredients, throwing it into a pot, kind of with some control and just being like, hope that tastes good. Okay, good. Oh, it tastes good. All right. That's not going to last for long. So I appreciate
man,
that.
that's absolutely, dude. Like that's again, why, like before I made the workbook for myself, like I would basically do the same thing. I would have note sheets. I still have some of them where it's just note sheets that were blank when I started. And I would just write as I go. I'd be in a deep dive with someone and I knew I wanted to take them through the structure of who, why, what, how, call to action, right? But I would just ask them questions and then write down their answers in scribble all over the page. And I'd be pointing arrows to things and going on the back, like not actually organized. It was just this raw refinement and processing of information that I was like, look, I know I can get this information out of people. I know I can turn it into something useful, but the bandwidth it takes for me to refine that especially the longer you go from like a deep dive to a shoot or a shoot to an edit, the more it goes right out the window. So I'm like, I need to be able to document it. I need to be able to organize it and reference it as like a Bible throughout the entire process. So I like locked myself in a room until I knew like, I sketched all this out on paper at first. Like I have the original sketches that were like, okay, I think I need like boxes and frameworks. And then I'm like looking at the trends and the common threads of everything and figuring out like, based on all the VBCs I've done in the past, like, at the time it was like 3 years. I'm like, what are the common stories that typically come up? What are the things that I usually ask people? How does it, like statement, claim, explanation, promise, commitment? I'm like, dude, I just need to look at this shit, do it once, figure it out, and then not have to worry about it anymore. So that's like incredibly valuable to just have some type of structure. Like I love mine. A lot of other people do. I think it works great. But for anybody, whether it's you, Chris, or anybody that's watching, like just having some type of organization to your process Oh man, especially nowadays when like everybody's a video strategist in the world is the big differentiator, man. It's huge.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, this has been great, dude. Like, I think literally it gives me a lot to take away. We've had it up for a minute. That's why I said I had to sift through. I was like, what video should I send? Because I've done a lot of home service stuff this year that I'm like, they're okay. Like, yeah, we won't get into it, but I am curious because like I don't know why I get self-conscious about this sometimes, but like, what did you think about like is other than the B-roll being kind of jacked in that one spot, the visuals and stuff like that, as far as like the lighting, the interview setups, different things like that? I'm always curious what outside perspectives are.
Interviews, I mean, we could bring it back right now too, like especially for anybody who's just popping in now. Like interviews look great. I would say like here's the thing. You have this many interviews in a day. Like you can, if I had one or two interviews, you could always make them look like cinematic, right? More like time to each setup. Never going to deny that because it's just, if you can throw an hour and a half at a setup, beautiful. Sometimes you're not afforded that luxury. I think these look solid. They're all in a similar themed place. It looks like their location. They're on camera and they look comfortable and the setup looks solid. So I would say like good work.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to put you on the spot and stuff. I was actually literally like in a boot cast that day, like kind of alone trying to, and they had nothing. This was like a facility. It looks like a school. So I just remember being like, they helped me. They moved couches and stuff around, but it was 9 interviews. We interviewed 9 people and it was like trying to break it up so they weren't all on the same couch and stuff. Yeah, I was like, how do I get myself into these situations? But all good. Anyways, I appreciate that. Yeah, like I said, I put you on the spot, but I look at that's dude. What I see. I'm like, man, I wish the logo on that you showed that shot of Chris. I wish I would have put their couch on boxes to bring the logo. Like, there's little things you look at that you nitpick that you're like,
I know what you're saying.
Used to more compressed lens or something. I don't know. You could go.
Yeah. No, dude, that's the thing. Look, is like you could put so much attention into each specific part, right? And you can say like, oh, shoulda, coulda, woulda. I wish I would have made it like, focused on this part, or God, I wish I would have put a key light or like the hair light over here. Like, dude, at the end of the day, if we can, the most important part is like, can we get the story across? Can we get the message across right? Because here's the thing, man. It has never been easier to shoot video and make it look nice, or to edit video on a technical level. I keep getting these little emoji things popping up.
It's Zoom.
It's actually, I think it's Apple. Because if I do this, it should give me something. Yeah.
Okay.
If we can, the bar has never been lower for technical proficiency. Because anybody can go on YouTube and pick up a camera and learn it in a week or a month. The difference nowadays, that next step up is that like storytelling, communication, message, brand messaging, all of that, which like, again, people who have been in it, like nowadays for the past 5 years, like we've been getting more and more people online saying like how to learn how to do video strategy and all that. It's like, cool. What's your differentiator nowadays when everybody else in the world is doing it? If you can be better at getting the right message out there, like you're a step ahead, and then from that, if you can have that dialed into a process or a package, then you're a step ahead too. But I think looking at this, man, like I said, people are clearly very comfortable. And that's kind of the strong foundation. You can do everything again further from there. You can go shoot more B-roll. You can do whatever. But if you don't have that great messaging, like that's key, So props to you for that.
Thank you, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Appreciate it. Yeah. This is cool. Like I said, thanks again for doing this.
Of course. And to anybody watching right now, like, one, let us know your thoughts. If you watch this, if you went through and you were like, dude, I actually really loved that part. Or like, I maybe would have done it differently or whatever it might be, like leave a comment. Let's get some discussion. Let's have the dialogue and the discourse going, because that's important, because everybody's got different perspectives on this stuff. We got a lot of cool names of people I recognize here popping up at the chat. Give us your thoughts and feedback. Give us your questions too, so we can help you out. If you want to run into the pit here and throw down and have your brand story broken down, you want to get in for a brand story breakdown, I'm going to post up a link with this that lets you submit. We got Chris was OG numero uno here for submitting his to get reviewed. So I'm going to post the comment up here. There's no charge for this. It's just something I really like doing to be able to help people and give some perspective and anything like that. So feel free to throw down and we'll give you the heads up on it. Chris, thanks for popping in. Thank you guys for tuning in. Leave your thoughts and comments. I'm Dave Lasowski. This has been Real. And until the next one, drink lots of water. Be nice to people. Peace.